Welcome, my name is Jacob Wittenberg and I'm a Technical Services Advisor at Frontier Precision, and my role is to help customers understand how they can best leverage the capabilities with the Esri ArcGIS platform. This includes helping agencies plan GIS strategy, how to best implement a solution, and help you create a successful rollout with adopting and maximizing the capabilities of this technology. This session is called GIS as a platform for sharing and collaborating, not just making maps. And that really summarizes the exact topic we'll be diving into today, and that is how GIS is more than a technology for just making maps. So I'm going to start with painting a picture with how your agency may currently access, share, and collaborate with data and information. Your organization may have one source of data, or many existing sources and repositories, many of which may still be dispersed and not interconnected. That goes for really any agency who uses GIS today or doesn't use GIS. We all have data and information, but how accessible is it? So with that, I'll ask the question, where is your spatial knowledge sourced and located today? So let's dive into this. So the first one I have up here is historical records. These may be files stored away in a file cabinet, they may be digital, but let's just think about it from this perspective. Historical records may be required to, call on past events, call on, past project details, or just there to access for general business purposes when called upon. So how accessible is that data? Can we see different patterns and trends and change over time? Well, probably not if it's stored in a file cabinet. If it's digital, possibly. If it's set up and structured in a format that allows us to. But otherwise, it might be just a very slow process to really find what we're looking for. Knowledge holders. Jumping to the next one here. This one's scary. I hate to say that, but it is kind of scary. You think about it. Knowledge holders are staff members or people at your agency or outside of your agency that carry a wealth of knowledge but don't have a place to put this information to transfer it to others. Or worse, they have a place to put this information and they choose not to. So think about this as a maintenance crew staff at a municipality, maybe an operator who's worked there for 15 to 20 years and they carry an infinite knowledge and wisdom of all the assets in the community, but they don't have any of this mapped out. They don't have any of it written down. It's all stored in their head. They know all the details and relevant maintenance information. They know what needs to happen next. They know all about past inspections and what needs to be inspected next. But that knowledge doesn't get transferred to the people who need it for making decisions. And it doesn't get written down in case or in the event that this person ever leaves the organization. So that knowledge is lost. It's all gone, right? So like I said, kind of a scary one. Same thing with spreadsheets. We all have an overabundance of them and we all use them every single day. And the data is accessible, it's there, but is it the best for visualization? Can we really see the patterns and trends we need to see? We can query it, but is it easy to share that information with other people? And is it easy for them to get access to the information that they need? Sure, there is cloud computing that we can share spreadsheets and things like that. But, oftentimes I see when I, walk into an agency is that a lot of people are still emailing spreadsheets back and forth. That's not really an efficient way to share information. So paper records, I like to look at that as inspection sheets, work order surveys. We all have, these paper workflows that still exist. As much as we want to digitally transform every process we have at our organization, oftentimes, we're still doing things on paper. Good, bad, or otherwise. However, how much time and effort is put into just taking those paper records oftentimes and putting them into a database somewhere else later? We're doing dual entry of that information. It actually increases the risk of, erroneous data, maybe not being translated or copied correctly. doesn't standardize the data necessarily all the time, because it gives people an easy way to fill things in how they want to. Also, these paper records, for redundancy, maybe we aren't putting them in a database. How do we call upon that information for action later if it's just all on paper? It makes it very difficult. So the next thing I'll dive into is we work with a lot of different agencies, both publicly and private, that still rely on wall maps or printed paper maps or PDF maps. And these are great for general reference. Don't get me wrong. They have their business case and their business needs in certain areas. But, where I'll go with that is the data that we view on these oftentimes doesn't have relational ties to other information. Maybe we want to be able to tie a location to data in a spreadsheet or some of our other historical records, or maybe some inspections that we've done. How can we tie all of that information together? Well, if you're just looking at from a wall map, you're using dispersed technology. And that can be difficult. The other thing to keep in mind with paper maps are they're only as good as the data that was available when they were printed. So if you're working in any sort of capacity where you're updating data and information often, those maps are pretty much out of date as soon as they're printed. Again, this is not an all-inclusive list, as there's all sorts of different sources of data, such as IoT or other sensor data, such as from drones or from LiDAR, or just other information that we have at our fingertips. And so GIS can really help enable our data and put it into the hands of those who need it, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about next. I want to talk about a concept of GIS. GIS may not be new to you, but for some users on here, I know it will be. So GIS, think about it as a place that allows us to organize and store all different types of spatial knowledge. This includes storage, manage, visualizing, and analyzing data within a centralized system. So many users only think of GIS as a tool for making maps, but if we look at the history of GIS, we find out that when the creator, back in the 1960s, Roger Tomlinson, he actually used GIS as an analysis tool rather than for a map-making tool. The map-making components came later. So GIS, when used as a system of records, has significant benefits in that it centralizes data storage, adds the location component, and because the data is structured, it can be easily queried, searched, analyzed, and we can start seeing different patterns and trends with the data. Better yet, we can even put that data to work, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more here in a bit. One other nice thing is we can also track the integrity of our data. So the integrity meaning what is the value of our data? We can enter metadata that tells us about our data, so that if anytime we're going out to gather information for a project, or we're querying data, we know that we have the best quality data set available at our fingertips, or we know that we can find out, is this data relevant to my project? Do we have good data to begin with? So in addition to location information, we can also tie other records from multiple sources together and connect data to make it easy to search and find what we're looking for. This might be in the form of inspection records or any other type of data you want to tie to a location. Lastly, if GIS is our system of records, we can engage with our data using WebGIS and put that information in the hands of everybody who needs access to it, which we'll take a look at on the next slide. So most users are familiar with ArcGIS Desktop, either ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro. ArcGIS Pro is a powerful desktop GIS application that allows a single user to work with spatial data on their computer. It supports both, well, I should say 2D, 3D, and 4D data, provides visualization tools, advanced analytics, and it is integrated to work with ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. So it makes it really a nice platform to start our mapping system. However, if all of your data is stored on a single machine, right, as a desktop application, it can lead to dispersed resources and just another silo of data hindering productivity. So let me paint a picture around a scenario that I see at least 2 to 3 times per week. That may be an underestimate, but I see this multiple times a week from organizations we work with. That's both in the public and private sectors. So I want to introduce a concept here, or an ideology. So this is Bob. Meet Bob. He manages the location information technology at his city. He didn't go to school for GIS or geography. He actually is a public works operator and had a passion and the business need to map out the assets of their community. This was to really help manage and maintain their infrastructure. He built a great foundation of data that incorporates all of their assets. He learned how to utilize ArcMap on his computer, and oftentimes he gets asked to print and make maps for other departments. Essentially, he's become the go-to person at the city when someone needs a map. The Public Works Department is now the direct place people go for location information. Essentially maps. However, I challenge you to think differently about this, as he's not a map maker. He was just someone with the business acumen that saw a need to utilize location information technology. Because of this, isn't his primary role at the city. Map updates can take him a few weeks or months before he can generate a new map for his coworkers. Okay. So meet Paul. Paul works in the planning department, and his department solely relies on Bob to get them the spatial data about their assets and mapped infrastructure. Well, Bob recently received some important data from a subcontractor and has not had time to update his maps in the past few weeks. This data is pertinent to their stormwater system. And this has put the planning department into quite a predicament, as they're needing to update information to best assess their current stormwater runoff situation. They're trying to work towards applying for a green infrastructure funding, and they're nearing a deadline, so they need to get this report in. The hurdle is that the city has a GIS, but the people who need the current data don't have access, right? A desktop model, right, only working from one computer, limits the use of the data on one machine, where it's stored, and limits who has access to it. This is where taking the next step with GIS technology and implementing a web GIS strategy using something like Arcgis Online can deliver this content to the people who need it. So let's take a look. So WebGIS allows us to engage with our data, and Esri's Arcgis Online platform makes that easy. Okay, so a WebGIS model is not an upgrade from ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro. It's a centralized tier of a modern GIS. Okay, it's the next step. This is the way I look at it. It's the next step in a process of GIS enabling your organization with location information. WebGIS has been around for many years, but historically, it was quite an undertaking to implement. However, Arcgis Online makes this platform simple and easy to use for pretty much everyone. In fact, there are well over, I heard something, well over 6 million users worldwide, and I've heard statistics that there's over a billion maps are created each day. I won't dive into the hosted versus on-premise systems at this time, but know that there are options for using the platform through Esri's cloud-based hosted services called Arcgis Online, or you can put this system behind your firewall on your own server or cloud hosting of your choice using their enterprise platform. So another way of looking at this is if your GIS is your system of records, and we have data stored within ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro in this example, then Arcgis Online is the connection method to your data that puts them in the hands of whoever needs access to it. So we need a portal to get the data out of ArcGIS Pro that allows us to share and connect the data with our organization, whether that be management needing to see live updated project information for status and making business decisions, or sending that data and information to the field to locate and find infrastructure, Or maybe we need a connection method to engage with the public. The ArcGIS Online platform provides the power and the scalability to share and collaborate on all levels with your data. This platform will really help transform your agency with making decisions and up-to-date information. Basically, it'll allow you to overcome the hurdles and tear down some of these data silos that may exist in your organization with your spatial information. Next, we'll look at some basics of the ArcGIS Online platform, and then we'll dive into some examples of how we can share and put our data into action. So, to get started, how do we get access to ArcGIS Online? Well, if you own an ArcMap license, you already have, and your maintenance is current, you already have access to it. Additionally, you can purchase online subscriptions to add new users to your organization. And lastly, you may have enterprise licensing or a package from Esri that includes entitlement for multiple users. You may need to reach out to your GIS or IT manager or whoever manages your licensing to find out more about what you have. If you get stuck in a dead end there, you can also reach out to your Esri representative and they'll provide you with more information. If you don't have access to that person, feel free to ping us. We are an Esri business partner, so we can help you track that down with Esri if need be. So I mentioned you may already have access and that you can purchase additional users. So let's take a look at the user types. So user types, these are the building blocks of ArcGIS Online subscriptions. They allow you to match team members within your organization with the capabilities and the apps they need to complete their work. So there's a few different levels that match user personas and give them access to the resources they need. So if we look, there are viewers. So viewers are going to be people, pretty self-explanatory. They are the people at your organization who need to be able to just view maps and apps and different resources. There's also editors. They can view the information in the office, but they can also edit data if they need to as well. From there, we'll jump over to the creator. So if you have ArcGIS Desktop already and your maintenance is current, then you already have access to a creator account. This allows you to create maps. It allows you to publish data. It allows you to edit data, view data, and then it also gives you access to the field tools as well. So if you need to go out and edit information in the field, as a creator you can do that. Otherwise, they do have a field worker account that allows you to go out, collect, edit, and update information. And then lastly, there is a GIS professional user as well. This is very similar to the creator, but it does add a few additional things. So when you're looking at the tiers, or I should say looking at the different levels here, there's different tiers of app bundles that are associated within the system. This can get very complicated as you get started, but let me help you break this down. So if you're a viewer, you'll notice underneath it says ArcGIS Essential Apps. So the ArcGIS Essential Apps are your core products that include the core bundles of the system. And so if you notice, every single one of those users gets access to the essential apps. Okay. Next, you're going to see is the field apps. Field apps are going to be just that. It's going to allow you to take your GIS from a desktop or a office environment and take it out into the field. Then next, you're going to see the office app bundles. This is going to be some advanced functionality for advanced users. And then you also have the GIS Professional. It builds on the creator and adds a copy of ArcGIS Pro with that. So diving into that a bit further, you can see the Essentials Bundle. All the user groups do get that. And this is the apps that you get with it, or I should say apps and tools and resources that you get with it. So as a viewer, I'm going to have the option to view maps. I'm going to have the option to work with things like story maps, dashboards. As an editor, I can edit some of that information within the maps. Creators, I can actually create using all of this, and then the creator also includes the option to take data add into the field. So we can do that as a creator, we can do that as a field worker, and as a GIS professional. So just know that the creator and the professional are going to be the ones authorizing the data more times than not. The field worker would be essentially the person going out, collecting, editing, and updating information using any of these apps. So if you want to know more about some of these apps, we are hosting a couple of other sessions, or have hosted a couple of other sessions at this point, around ArcGIS field maps, and that's probably the most common one that actually took over for Esri Collector here as a replacement, kind of going into this year of 2021. And you're going to see that these apps are going to be your productivity for collecting and updating data and information. So then lastly, you have the Office app bundles. These are going to be apps that allow for some advanced capabilities, such as maps for Office and then also for SharePoint as well. So just some advanced functionality. So sharing is made really easy within the system. Once you've published data to the cloud, you can easily share your content between users. So you're in control of how the data is shared. You can share with your organization, you can share publicly, you can share between organizations, or you can share to groups. So say I want to create a group of people that need access to this data and information. I can easily create that group, and within that group, or within the sharing capabilities, I can select one group or I can select multiple groups. I can also have groups that are part of my organization, or I can have groups that have people outside of my organization as well. So to access ArcGIS Online, I just need to go to arcgis.com and then click on ArcGIS Online, and that'll bring you to your sign-in page. On most Esri websites, you can also sign in up in the upper right. So sign-in is very easy. It's just a simple single user sign-on. And so I have mine saved here. I can click on it, and it'll sign me right in. Once I'm signed in, I'm going to get an overview page of my organization, but if I click on content, I can see all of my content that I have published to the cloud that's stored within ArcGIS Online. So this is all data that I have out there. I have quite a bit of information out there. And the nice thing is that I can easily share this data with other users. So if I want to share data and information, all I have to do is go to my layers or my information, click on this, and as you can see, as we saw earlier, I can share this information to myself, to the organization, everyone in my organization, or to the public. So if I want this information to go out and everybody can see it, I can have that out there. Or if I want to share it with a group, I can click on Edit Group Sharing, and I can select different groups that I want to share this to. Okay, so groups are really easy to create. You actually have a groups tab right here, and groups are great for organizations who have a lot of people, or maybe groups or organizations who don't have a lot of people but just need to segment out who actually gets to have access to the data and what those priorities are. So for example, I've created, just for our own sales team for doing demos and things like that, just a quick and easy group that has some basic maps in it, some things like a accuracy test with a Trimble R1 receiver. I also have a few other ones, streetlight issues, and I think some other pretty basic ones like some damage assessments and some forestry applications. Just some very basic applications that they can use to showcase technology. So groups are easy to make. You can make groups that contain people within your organization, but also you can create groups that contain people outside of your organization. So groups are very easy to use, very easy to make, and it makes it simple to share the information with the people you need. So how do we get data into a usable format? Well, we have the data here and it's already usable. So what this is called a hosted feature layer, and we can take this hosted feature layer and we can put it right into a map. And so if we want to do that, if I click on this feature layer, it's going to allow me to see all of the metadata information that I may have available about it. That includes any layers in the map, any existing related tables. So that would be information that is typically non-spatial that I want tied to this record. And then I can edit a thumbnail if I want to have a picture about it, and I can leave different comments about it. And it'll always have a time and a date stamp to it. I can create tags in it, helps for searching. There's a direct URL to it as well. But I can open this in a map viewer. And when I open this in a map viewer, it actually takes my data and it puts it into a map format. And here, I can create a web map that I can share with other users very easily. So here's my data. If you're new to ArcGIS Online, this is my layer, and these are some different tools. So if I want to show the table, I can see the table. This is going to be to change the style of it. This is for filtering if I want to query and search the data within that layer. To cluster points, and there's a lot of other things as well. Like I can set the visibility range, transparency, and other things within this web map. So I can share this as a web map specifically, just as you see it here. I can also print the map if I want to print it. I can make a legend for it as well. If I want directions to these positions, I can get directions to them. I can measure on this map. But really the big thing that I want to showcase right now is how easy it is to share this map. So if I click on share, you need to save this map before sharing, so it's going to require me to save it. So we'll save it here quick. I want to give it a title. We'll call this Tech Expo Hydrants. And so I can easily share this map, and I can give it a tag if I want to. Let's just call it Tech Expo so I can easily find it. And then a summary, just a demo map, just so I know what it is. And I'm going to save it in my folder. So that map is now shared with myself, and if I want to share it with other users, I can go in and I can set the priority of that map under my contents pane. So if I go back to my contents, we can see in my folder that there is now a web map that contains this layer, and as you can see, it is only shared with me. But if I want to share this with my team, say my sales team, I can actually come down here, I can go to edit group sharing, and I can add that to their map specifically. So let's take a look at what that map might look like to them on a mobile device. So I shared that map with our sales team group, and say they want to go out and do a demo or they want to utilize this information. How can they easily do that? Well, all they have to do is they have to open the Field Maps app. I've already logged in, so it already logged me in, but if I wasn't, I would just have to put in my username and password. And as you can see, I have a bunch of different maps here that have previously been shared with me or that I have shared. And if I go down to the bottom, I'll have my groups. So if I go into this FPI sales team that I had created as a group, and I scroll down to this Tech Expo, you'll see that there's a hydrants layer or a hydrants web map in there. And if I click on that, it's going to open that map. And so if I'm looking at this data, you'll see I have a couple of different maps and different things. And so if I click on a hydrant, what you're going to see is that it may have some information about it, some basic information. So this one was installed in 2019. It's a Mueller. It's operable. Last service date was also in 2019. Looks like when it was installed. The flow rate was 86 gallons per minute. And so then there's also information about the receiver that was being used. Looks like it was just probably updated with a phone or digitized. But the neat thing is that we can not only collect the basic information about that with the location, we can also collect a inspection record about it as well. So if I type on this, it's going to pull up a inspection. And so if we check the PSI, let's say the PSI is 89. And who was the inspector? Well, it was me. So I was out there collecting it. And what else do we have? Paint required. Paint is required. And then let's see here, lubrication required, yes. And then let's see what else. Notes. Paint will be required, but not until next year. and just putting in a basic note just so people know. So if I click done, this inspection's done for all intents and purposes. If I click submit, that inspection is now tied to this record, which is nice. So if I close out of that, you'll be able to see now, instead of saying that there's no inspections available, there's an inspection on the bottom. So let's say that was 2020, I did that. 2021, I go out, I want to do another inspection. Let's say the pressure is 75, and let's say paint is required. Paint is no longer required. Was lubricated, yes, but let's just put in here painted 2021, and that way we just have a note of that. I hit submit, and now the nice thing is that I've saved that inspection, and now I have 2 inspections in there. I can always recall this information anytime I want to. It's always there. And I can always put a label in here too of the date if I wanted to say something else other than hydrant maintenance inspection. Maybe I wanted to say 2021, 2020, whatever. I can have it fill that information a bit differently, just how I have it set up for this application. But yeah, it makes it really easy to go out and collect and edit information. I'm not going to get too much into ArcGIS field maps, as we are running a full session or a full session on this at the Texpo this week, so you can always recall that video if you missed it already. One really nice thing though is that as soon as I update the information on this map, this information is live and available as long as I have an internet connection in the field as to other users. So if I have other users using this map, they'll be able to see these edits and these changes right away. But the other thing is that any maps, other maps that are using these layers, are going to have that same updated information readily available. And so in our next example, we're going to look at how we can put this data into action even further. So let's take a look at our next example here. And let me jump ahead a few slides here. And in this next example, I want to show how we can put data into action. I have a solution for a city that we created that needed to route work to staff, and they needed to be able to go out and inspect signs that may have been damaged. So these signs may have been damaged by a vehicle passing. Maybe they need to just go out and do inspection for reflectivity or things like that. So whatever the task may be, we need to be able to route the work to them. And so part of that, they needed to have administrative staff that could update information. So if somebody called in, and if they got a call in that said that something needed to be inspected or wasn't up to snuff and they need to go out and check on it, how could they route the work easily to them? Well, we set up the admin so they can easily notify somebody who can route the work to mobile staff who could go out and do the inspection or repair as required. So the neat thing is that this incorporates a lot of different Esri technology to create a nice solution and a nice system that helps with their operations. So we've incorporated ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, and Web App Builder to configure the system, and then we've put that system into action utilizing workforce, field maps, and then dashboards so that we can route work to the field, we can edit information in the field if needed, and then we can also have a live view of what's going on for a city manager. So let's take a look. It's a fun application.
So here we have a basic web app that we built with Web App Builder. This shows existing signs in their community. And there's a legend over here. This legend shows the actual signs themselves, shows a status of them, I should say, of what is their condition. Are they in good condition, poor condition? Do they have something else going on with them? Or are they critical and need immediate attention? Within this, there's also workforce assignments. So workforce is how we assign work out to workers so they can go out and do their inspection on it. So you can see that some of these are unassigned, some are assigned, some are in progress, and then it shows a completed status as well with a box around it. And then lastly, it does show the workers. So the workers show that they're not working, on break, or that they're working. So this is really nice. If someone in the community calls in a sign that's been damaged or needs repair, or maybe a maintenance crew updates a sign out in the field that says that it needs inspection, and then the streets department can go out and inspect it. This is great for the administrative staff because it just gives them the information that they need at their fingertips. And if somebody does call in, um, the department can see, whether it's been reported or not already, and they can also see if there's a maintenance crew that's working on it and what the status is. And if it's not been called in, then they can easily update it, and it will change the symbology of the sign to visualize that it needs attention. The street department's manager can easily see this on their maps, that it needs to be inspected. So take a look at this. If they just click on edit, they can edit any of these pertinent key things. So if we come over here to the sign, and let's say that this sign specifically needs attention, it's in a median, and right now the day rating is good, let's change that to critical. And just because we've changed that simply, we can see that it has now changed that symbology, and we can see that it needs attention immediately. It hasn't been assigned yet because we haven't assigned it to anyone in Workforce. Once it's been assigned, then it would get a box around it. But this is a great indicator because now, if I come into Workforce, I can see that that map is available here as well. And within Workforce, I can assign this to somebody who can go out and do the inspection. So on this map here within Workforce, this is really our map that applies some action, right? So in this I can see workers, I can see that this worker is on break, I can see that this worker is not working, nor is this one. So if this one's on break, it's probably a good possibility that they'll be back soon and that I can assign that job to them. So I will go out and I will assign this task to somebody. So if I look at this, this one is number 17 here, and sign 135 is the ID. I can see that it is critical, right? And so if I want to create an assignment for that, all I have to do is click create assignment, and it's going to ask me to pick a type. So what needs to happen with this one? Well, I didn't have any details, so let's just go out and do an inspection on it. And then I've selected an address, so the address is there. Who do I want to assign it to? Well, again, this user's here, he's available. Let's click on him, put myself to work. And what is the priority? Well, since this one's critical, let's set it as critical, and they need to go out and inspect that right away. So I'm going to set a due date as of, I'll give him a little bit of a budget because I know he's been busy with getting ready for Texpo. So let's set this one for Thursday, and we can set a time for that. I want that done by 10 a.m. If I was working with an asset management system on the back and that maybe managed work orders and things like that, I could have it populate this work order ID, or I could manually key this in this system. We haven't done a digital transformation yet, so I'm still working off of a very archaic system that's still paper-based. So here's my work order number, and I've entered it in, and description, please inspect this sign was called in from community member. So if I have this and I have all this information set up, I can click on create an assignment. And this has now created an assignment for this user. So if we go back to assignments and we want to look and see kind of what's going on or who has inspections and work, if I zoom out a little bit here, too far, I can see that there is a few other assignments out there, and I can see that these are assigned to Carissa. I can see that these are assigned to myself. You can see that this number 17 is critical. This is the one I just created. It's due in 2 hours. Some of these other ones are lower, so I know my priority on what I need to do. I can also see that Allison has some inspections as well. Some of these are in a status of already being completed. I have some down here that are paused, and then I have some here that are assigned, but they haven't really nobody's really done anything with them yet. So that some topology reflects what a status is of those. So let's take a look at the mobile app and how that comes across. So if I come into my mobile app, I can open up the workforce application on my phone, and I can see that I have this top inspection. It's critical. That's the one that just came across. It's number 17. I also have a repair that's due here, and I just got that notification for this one that's telling me that, hey, this just came across. And so I can see these from high priority to low priority. Also on the screen I can see to-dos that have been completed, or that have not been done yet, or ones that are completed. And so I'm going to keep it on the to-do list, but what I need to do is I need to change myself from on break to working so that I can notify everybody else that, hey, I'm working again, I'm going out on this assignment, and I'm available for other repairs if needed. So if I want to look at a map view, I can see that. You can see that I have one critical assignment added, and then there's all these other ones on here. Now there's a lot of critical ones. Some of these though are not assigned to me, right? So I only have one critical one that's actually assigned to me specifically. So if I come in here and I want to prioritize and I want to do this one next, I can click on inspect. It shows me I'm 12 miles away from it. It also shows me that this was called in by a community member, it was hit by a car, and maybe I want to navigate to it. So if I click on that, I can click here, and in this application I have set up some easy to use tools for them so they can navigate to it, they can collect it. So let me go to navigate, and this is going to open the Navigator app. If I was using field maps, I could open it in field maps as well. And if I open it in field maps, then I could use Google Maps for directions. But in this application, I have it set up with Navigator. So if I click on navigation, it'll be real loud here, sorry. Oh, I got it muted, great. And this will give me turn-by-turn directions with voice to navigate me to that location. So let's say that I've driven there, I've ended up there, and now I want to go back and I want to finish off my inspection. So with the inspection, I'll acknowledge that I'm there. I've started doing it, and let me enter in some notes on it. So let me confirm, was hit by car, stop sign, will need repair, sign is in good shape. And so that gives me some information. I'm just going to put in there photo attached. And the nice thing is that now I have that information. I can add an attachment if I want to. So if I want to take a photo or other media, it wants to access my camera, okay, there's the sign, it's down. If I take a photo, I can use that photo, and now it's attached to it so that everybody else can now see that that sign is down and it needs repair. Okay. So it's saving the attachment, it's going to send it through the cloud, and I'll be able to see that on my web map here shortly. So the next thing I want to show is a dashboard that we created just for a manager to come in and be able to see what's happening at any given time with their system. So if we look at this, there's a lot of different things going on. We have our map in the middle. This shows pertinent information. As you can see, it's dynamic, so if I zoom in, some of these status ratings change. I can also click on information. It'll show me all the information that's available on the map. I have assignment statuses, how many are assigned, how many are completed, and this can be changed for how many days out it's looking at. I also have a worker status that shows that I have one person working and two people not working. I can even add little widgets like this, which is just weather, so I can always see what's happening with the weather in my area, know if there's a storm or something like that. And then I also have the legend here. So this makes it for a great tool just for them to be able to keep tabs on what's happening in their community specifically, and keep up to date with the most relevant information available. So yeah, just a nice example of a dashboard and how that might be used in this scenario.
So the next one I want to talk about is sharing and engaging with the public. Remember, you are in control of the data, and it can be shared down to the granular level, meaning you can share just a basic layer of data, or even parse out information out of the layer for sharing, all the way up to creating a full-blown application and websites that interact and engage with the public. Below are a few great Esri apps that allow us to easily share data and in some instances engage with the public. This is not all apps that would allow you to do this, but just some good examples. So the first is the ArcGIS story maps. They can help you tell a story by adding a text narrative, pictures, video, and other elements to a page that really helps you tell a story with your data. So let's take a look at an example. So the first example I have is a story map called Mapping Mount Everest. It was created by a geographer called Alex Tate, and he worked with the National Geographic Society to map base camp at Everest. And so this is a great use case of a story map to tell his story about their project. So as you can see, they were utilizing GNSS equipment at the top of Everest, and with that, they also did map Basecamp as well. This is a great 3D map that they have embedded in here. One of the nice things is because this is embedded, we can zoom in, zoom out, we can pan around on the map. There are tools here available as well. We can make this full screen if we want to. So it just makes for an easy way to share this data and information. Here's a historical map. He's embedded an image here. If we click on this image, it does make it bigger so I can see it a little bit larger. Here's another map in 3D as well that we can take a look at. Again, embedded directly into this page. And the page is a part of the story map template. So when you create these story maps, it does create that page for you. Here he's embedded an image talking about the different technology that they used on this project, from GPS to drones to terrestrial LiDAR. So it just paints a nice picture, helps along with the narrative, and some more images, some more text. And then we also do have some video in here as well, right? Video playback of their flight with their drone. And yeah, it's just a great example of a story map. So the next I want to talk about is ArcGIS dashboards. And there's one dashboard in particular I want to show because it really highlights how powerful a dashboard can be. And I know you've seen this dashboard throughout the past year, and you maybe have seen other dashboards very similar to it, but they were the first ones to really leverage this technology. And this was Johns Hopkins University's dashboard, mapping out COVID cases worldwide. So as you can see, we've seen other dashboards that were private, right, held behind a secure login, but this is the public dashboard. So they've been taking data and gathering information, and this information gets fed up to this web map specifically. And the nice thing is it's all dynamic. We can see different cases in different areas. There's statuses for global cases. There's statuses by region, right? So more than a map, this is really, helping paint a picture on what's going on with real-time data and information. As you can see, this was last updated at 3/31/2021 at 6:28 p.m. So just a little bit under, or a little almost an hour ago. And then, it's showing 192 different regions. And it's a great example of how you can use a dashboard to get your data and information out there for people to see. So the next thing I want to showcase is the ArcGIS Experience Builder. Think about this as Web App Builder 2.0. So we can build web applications that have purpose with tools, visualization, data, and information that's relevant or pertinent to the audience that we're sharing it to. So a great example of this, and especially for this conference, is actually Ramsey County. So Ramsey County in Minnesota, this is the metropolitan county for St. Paul, Minnesota. And the county has actually published all of their benchmarks and survey monuments layers out to the public. So this information is all readily available. So we can see all of their benchmarks, from the aluminum caps, bolt, brass caps, survey monument. We can see how they're actually all listed. So cast iron pipe, looks like a lot of these. And so the nice thing is if we click on one of these, we'll see photo representation. They have it embedded here, and then there's information about what it is. This is a quarter corner, it's cast iron. Here's the certificate link. I have a surveyor link, and then here's the related table for their inspection. So if I click on this, it should open up their certificate. There should be information about it. This one looks like it was actually signed off by Dan Barr. So Dan, if you're attending this session, thank you guys for putting this great resource together. Dan's a big advocate of GIS, even though he is in the survey department. They use GIS every day. So yeah, just another great example of a web application that provides useful information to the public. So the last one I want to talk about is ArcGIS Hub. It's a bit different in that it allows organizations to create and configure a community engagement platform. Think of this as a place that you can organize people, places, and data around them into a common initiative. The beauty is that it can be so much more than just a map. It can be a hub to connect and engage with others, but also receive and share information and notify them of different things happening, especially around your initiative. So I have a great example of this. This is actually the Global Earth Day Challenge from Earth Day, the nonprofit organization. And this is actually, if you look up here, this is the Esri logo, right? So this is actually their hub site. And so here you have links to their different apps that they have. You have information about a project that they're focused on, which is this citizen science initiative. And what they're doing is they have a campaign, it's called a Bee campaign, and click around to see photos submitted by dozens of scientists from all over the world. And so the nice thing is that you can learn more about their project. You can see data and information that people have shared around the world. And this is all embedded, right into this ArcGIS Hub site. And they have different information in here. They have videos here that you can see, text and narrative as well. So a lot more than just a static page like a story map is, where this can actually have multiple tabs. You can have different links. Here they've embedded their social media links as well. So think about this as almost like a templated website builder, but focused around the ArcGIS side of things, right? So that we can share our maps and apps and different things like that. All right, so I have one more example I want to show regarding public engagement, and this is another great example. This one speaks a little bit closer to home. So let me pull this up here quick. We actually worked with Twin Falls County Mosquito Abatement, and we helped them implement a mosquito and vector control application for the public. And so what it is a app on Android and iOS that allows the public to download it in this community. Free, it's just a free app to download. And what they can do is they can have service requests for coming out and spraying in the community for mosquito and then black fly. And so it makes it really nice because you have service requests, and the service request comes up, and then you can fill out this information, submit it, and then information goes directly into the county's pest abatement GIS, and then it notifies them that somebody's asking for a request, and if they get enough requests in that specific area, then they can prioritize it and go out and spray. Then there's also spray maps that show areas that they've sprayed already and areas forecasted as well. So there's also notifications, so information would come across telling them when the next spray time is. And so then there's also news and updates as well. So this is another great example of public engagement. So lastly, how do we get started using this technology? Well, with any technology that involves people, community resources, and action, I recommend starting with a plan outlining your strategy and your long-term goals so that you have a starting place on where you're at today and you know the vision of where you want to go, and you have a path on how to get there. This is one of the most important aspects of any successful GIS. It really is what makes or break a working system. And so if you need help or want guidance with this process, we're an Esri Gold business partner and an ArcGIS Online specialty partner. So with this, we offer full GIS services and have helped many agencies start using or advancing their existing GIS. We offer collaborative planning and strategy sessions with our geospatial work plan. This is a very easy way to get started. This helps to outline your short-term initiatives and long-term goals with implementing location information technology. We help you create a living and breathing plan and an approach to help you stay focused on direction, implementation, and success with adopting technology at your agency. We look at all the important aspects such as the people, the process or processes, technology, and how we can leverage this location technology to help streamline processes and business challenges at your organization. Not only that, we help you put together a plan for adoption. One of the biggest challenges isn't actually the technology and getting it working. Oftentimes, it's just barriers, people's reluctant to change, right? So we can help put in a change management plan of action for you as well. If you don't have the resources, either staff or available time to implement, update, or advance your GIS, we also offer services from the most basic of needs to the most complex needs. So everything from basic mapping and visualization to ArcGIS Online jumpstarts, training, GIS consulting, even app development, as you saw today in some examples. So with that, I want to open up to questions.